So good morning. And here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be having, first and foremost, we're going to be going over some math concepts, okay? We're going to be going over some math concepts, and we're going to make sure that we have an idea as to how to solve some of these tricky problems. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask you guys to type in the chat as I'm talking and tell me what your biggest problems are with math, because I want to make sure that everyone who is here, okay, everyone who is here gets a chance to ask some questions and they get to interact with me. So if you tell me what your biggest issue with math is, I think that that's something that would be very helpful for us so that we understand that moving forward. So tell me, finding out the cap rate. Yeah, I think that's going to be one of the first questions that we're going to go over is cap rate questions, because I think those are ones that you can almost guarantee will be on the test. And that's super important. So a couple of different things that we're going to talk about. And percentages. Yeah, percentages are a big one, especially when you have a longer percentage. And I'm glad that you actually mentioned that, because percentages are going to be a big one. So let's talk about percentages first. So a lot of people ask about this formula, and some of your teachers, depending on how they teach, depending on what they say, might call this a couple different things. And I'm going to tell you how I remember this. I remember this by Pabst Blue Ribbon. This is the part over the base multiplied by the rate. Okay. Yeah, and someone said, Beverly said, understanding what the question's asking. And we're going to go into that too, because when we start looking at the questions, we're going to dissect each question. And I'm going to tell you what I want you to do when you approach a math question. Okay? So part over the base times the rate. Now, what I'm talking about here is a basic way that you could apply this to any situation where there is a rate, a part, and a base. Always. And what this helps you with, because I think that what a lot of people try to figure out is, so Lucressa, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, you said knowing what figure goes where as far as Pabst Blue Ribbon or part over the base times the rate. And let me clarify that for you, okay? So when we're talking about any rate formula, any rate question, you could almost always use this formula, okay? And here's what the formula helps you figure out. It helps you figure out this simple question. Am I multiplying or am I dividing? Okay, that's it. Am I multiplying or am I dividing? Okay, so understand this. What I always like to do is I like to talk about it in regards to a pizza pie. Why? Because I'm a fat kid. Okay, I am a fat kid at heart, and I'm a fat kid on the outside too. So I love talking about it like this. So, and I think it's easier to understand this way. Okay, the base is always the entire pie. Okay, that's always the entire pie. The rate is what percentage we take out of the pie. So let's say I cut myself a stew-sized slice, and you guys are saying, Stu, that's half of the pie. You're right. That's 50%. That's a stew-sized slice, okay? And then the part is the actual slice. So the part is the actual slice. So here's what I'm going to tell you. There's a couple of easy ways that I like to remember this, because I'm going to do some erasey now, okay? And with the erasey, I'm going to get rid of a couple things so that we kind of make this a little clearer. And again, you're going to have this on recording, and it takes me about 24 hours to get that to you. So don't worry if you're like, wait, do that again, Stu, because you could watch this on replay within 24 hours. I'm going to send you the link, and you could watch it as much as you want. So let's talk about this. If the rate at which we take our slice, so if the rate at which we take our slice is greater than 100%, okay, then the part, the slice, is bigger than the base. Okay? So listen to what I said to you. If you see a question and the rate, the percentage which you take out is greater than 100%, then the slice is bigger than the base. So if I'm sitting at a pizza parlor and they said, what percentage of this pie would you like? And I said 110%. That's going to mean that my slice is bigger than the base. Okay? Now, what we could also do is we could also invert that, and let me explain this. Okay? Watch. If the rate, and understand this, most of the time, the rate is going to be less than 100%, because a lot of what the questions that you're going to be working with are commission questions. They're questions where it's like they're taking out a 5% rate, a 6% rate, a 7% rate, you know, maybe 15. Okay. In all of those, the rate is going to be smaller than 100%, means that the base, the size of the entire pie, is going to be bigger than the part. Okay? Does that make sense, guys? Please type in the chat. Give me a thumbs up if you at least could follow me there. And again, if you're on the wavelength that you're like, hey, I'm not totally there, don't worry. You're going to get this on recording, and I have no problem repeating myself a couple times, but after that, we got to keep moving and grooving, okay? So now, and like I said, this is something that you have to, and some of you might have to see it in application. That's why I see a couple of you saying, hey, I need to apply this to something. And I think that that's the important part of it. I'm giving you an abstract idea. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that you kind of understand it. So, and again, a lot of you are going to have to rewatch this or say, all right, I need to repeat that or pause it and stuff like that. That's why the recording is very important. And that's why I give you my warning at the beginning. Hey, I am going to lose some of you guys. I don't expect 100% of you to get this, because it's hard, it's obtuse. I'm fighting 12 plus years of foundational math knowledge that you have. And the way that I approach math is not the same way that others approach math. And what happens is there might be some things that might just totally go over your head the way I'm explaining it. That's why it's a very doing thing. That's why we're going to be going through questions. So here is the situation. Let's talk about cap rate, because a couple of you were talking about cap rate, okay? And cap rate is a very similar formula to part over the base times the rate. It's actually the same thing, but I like to change the words a little bit. And what I always say with cap rate is my Uncle Irv wears a cap, okay? And what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to explain to you also how you use the Pabst Blue Ribbon. So I'm going to keep that here, because what happens is I haven't showed you how you apply them yet, like what you do. So what happens in these two formulas, okay, because again, they're very similar. A cap rate problem, I always say my Uncle Irv wears a cap, okay? In a cap rate problem or in a Pabst Blue Ribbon problem, so in an Irv, we're talking about income over the cap rate times the value. Now, here's what happens. In every single formula, in every single scenario, you are going to have two values. You're going to have two values. It's impossible for you to not, okay? Because you cannot do something with just one. You have to have two values. So if you have a base and a rate, you're going to be multiplying. So whatever you're trying to solve for, okay, basically what you do is you would cross it out and then do the arithmetic that you see. So the only time that you're going to be multiplying in a part over the base times the rate is when you have a base and when you have a rate. The only time you multiply in a Irv situation is when you have the rate multiplied by the value. So those are the only two times you multiply, okay, is when you have a base and a rate, okay, or a rate and a value. And the rate is always usually the percentage, okay? And then you just have to identify what you have, okay? So again, we'll look at it in context with questions, but if I'm looking for, let's say, a value, because most of the time in a cap rate formula, they'll be asking you for a value. So that would be the income divided by the rate. So these are the two formulas that I would say definitely no, okay? But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you do not know what is what and what goes where, this could hinder you more than anything else. So a lot of people think that they need to get this in order to understand how to get the question. If you have another way of doing it that works in your head and this is simply confusing you, then trash this. So how do you know the difference? Lucressa asked, how do you know the difference of base or value? Is it a cap rate question only? Great question. So what happens is this. Most of the time, a part over the base times the rate, we're going to be talking about maybe commissions, maybe we'll be talking about different things other than cap rate. When we're talking about a cap rate problem, it'll usually say what's the capitalization rate, or it would be for an investment property, okay? And then Beverly said it's the questions that I have trouble with. Well, yeah, we're going to get into a ton of the questions. And what happens is this. I usually like to take the time out to give us somewhat of a foundation so that the questions go a little smoother. We have to get somewhat of a foundation down. Now, after we erase that, because again, we'll see that in practice when we look at the questions, okay? Someone said Uncle Irv wears a cap is a great one. Yeah, I like that. I like Pabst Blue Ribbon. And the reason I use Pabst Blue Ribbon is because my mentor, he's an older gentleman. He's 83. And he basically taught me, he always has a can of Pabst Blue Ribbon at his desk. And he always said, Pabst Blue Ribbon, best beer ever. And that was my my real estate instructor. I always remembered it that way. So that was, to me, the way that I always got it. But let's talk about area, because you will get an area question also on your test in some manner, shape, or form. Okay? So what happens is they'll usually give you a lot, okay? And what you'll have to do is find the square footage or the area of it in some manner, shape, or form. And when you do, it's a very simple formula. You just multiply the sides together, okay? You just multiply the sides. Yeah, length times width, just the two sides multiplied together, and it gives you the area. Now, if it's a triangle, it's just 1/2 the base times the height, okay? Or you have Shannon said it right there. You just have it. Yeah, you divide it by however you want to do it. You divide it by 2, whatever you want to do there. So it's always 1/2 when it comes to a, finding the area of a triangle. Excuse me. Now, the next thing that I want to do before we get into questions, because that's what we're going for next, is this. How many square feet are in an acre? How many square feet are in an acre? And you all have different ways to remember this. So here is the one that I use. So it's 43,560. Okay. And how I remember that is 4 old men driving 35 in a 60. That's how I remember it. 4 old men driving 35 in a 60. There are 4 old men in a car. Someone says 7-Eleven has donuts. So watch this. You ready? Someone said old women. Yes. So watch the 7-Eleven one. I'll show you the 7-Eleven moniker that some people have is this. And I do like the 7-Eleven one too, because I like 7-Eleven donuts. So they go 7-Eleven has donuts. Yeah, that's the other one. So whichever one you remember, it's just what happens with me with the 7-Eleven, the way that my brain works is that doesn't compute with me. I like the 4 old men driving 35 in a 60 because it's all the numbers. Math at 8 a.m. makes me want to have a Pabst Blue Ribbon. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what the best time is for everybody on these webinars. The next one that I schedule, I might do midday on a Saturday. So I have to see. So you guys, let me know in the chat too, what would be a good time for you guys that you think would be acceptable for a webinar. And I do these twice a month. So twice a month. Someone said anytime. Yeah, and that's what I try to do. I just try to be respectful of you guys, because I think that's the most important thing when we're trying to do this. Whenever you're West Coast, yeah, and it's hard because we have West Coasters, we have East Coasters, and it's always hard. So 10 a.m. East Coast, yeah, that might not be a bad time. I've been thinking about that for a little bit. Someone said it's all good, right? Everything's going to be torture now, no matter what. So let's look at some math problems. So guys, first and foremost, get your calculators ready. And can you see my screen? Let me know in the chat if you could see my screen. Okay, so then let's do this problem. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through this. And I want you guys to follow along with me too, because what we're going to have to do is this. We're going to have to identify what kind of problem this is. So here we have a capitalization rate. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that we're going to be doing an Uncle Irv problem. Okay, and I'm going to write that down right here so that you guys could see it right there. And you could kind of follow along with me, okay? Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. Take your time with this, and let me read the question to you. An income property was appraised for $100,000 based on a 6% capitalization rate. If the investor used an 8% cap rate, the value of that property would be, okay. So let's talk about what we have. And remember I said to you guys, you're always going to have two things. So type in the chat, please. What are the two things that you have right now? Based on what we're talking about, based on everything that you know, what do we have here? Okay. What do we have? What do we have? It looks like we have a value and a rate. Yeah, Shannon, absolutely. So the value is going to be $100,000, and we have a cap rate of 6%. Now, what I always say with math problems, what you want to do is this. Before you start doing math, okay? Before you start doing any math, you want to stop and ask yourself, what are they asking you to solve for, and what is your first step going to be, okay? So in this one, I asked you guys, I put the formula up there. Like that was my first thing I did. I wanted to put the formula up there because I knew that this was a cap rate problem. I saw a cap rate when I was reading the problem. I knew that this was going to be a cap rate problem. Next, I have to figure out what it is they're asking me for. So guys, put in your own words. What are they asking you for? Okay, what are they asking you to solve for? It looks like they're asking you to solve for the value of the property, right? The value of the property if they changed the cap rate, right? So someone wrote they were looking for the difference between 8 and 6%. So yes, they are. And what they're looking for is this. They're looking for a value. So I'm going to ask you guys a question too. So Juliet asked a really great question. What is cap rate used for? So this is used in the income approach when we're appraising properties. And also investors use this to figure out their rate of return. So cap rate is really, if you guys do any kind of stocks or anything like that, it's like yield on cash, okay? It's like your yield, okay? So what happens is this. How do we solve for value? So what is the final step that we're going to be doing? Give me the formula that we're going to use. So you cross off value here, and we're going to divide. What are we going to divide, Shannon? Or anybody who wants to communicate with me what we're going to divide. So what's that final step going to be? Because we know what we're looking for. So we're going to divide the income by the cap rate, okay? So I have a question for you. Do we know the income yet? Do we know the income? Okay. We don't know the income, right? We don't know the income. No. So we don't know the income. So let me ask you this, based off of IRV, based off what you see here, how would you solve for the income? Okay, how would you know how to get the income? So we've already figured it out. We figured out kind of a couple of the steps that we have to take. So let me ask you this, how do you solve for income? Okay, and how you get that, you're going to multiply. So what are you going to multiply, Lisa? 100,000 times the percent. So here, let's do this. 100,000 times 6%. And guys, give me the number on that one. What would you get? Okay, you get 6,000. Okay, and what is that 6,000? What is that 6,000? That's the income. That's the income. So now, guys, what do they want to base the cap rate off of? What cap rate do they want to base this value off of? What is the cap rate they want to base this value off of? I'll give you a hint. They want to know if we use an 8% cap rate. So what's the final one? Oh, Shannon got it. 6,000 divided by 8%. And tell me what that number would be, Shannon, or anybody. So got a question that said, how do you know what the income is and what the value is? Well, we have a value here, right? So we know that that's the value of the property because the property was appraised for. So what the property is appraised for is the value, because here's the thing, that is not the income it's generating, and that's not the cap rate, okay? So that is the value because that's what it's appraised for. Because when we're appraising a property, we're trying to find the value, right? And we're trying to find the value. So we identified 100,000 as the value. The cap rate was right here. It said that we're using a 6% cap rate to come up with that value. So what happens is we're trying to find the income after that. And we found that by multiplying the rate of 6% multiplied by the value. And we got a $6,000 income. Then all we did was change the cap rate, and then we got that value of 75,000. So Lucreza asked, and I'm not really following the question, why do you divide the cap rate by the 8%? Well, you didn't, and not just use only the 8%, because here's why, and let me explain this concept to you, okay? And thank you for saying I make it seem so easy. This is the goal, right? That's why you guys are here with me. It's for me to try to explain this to you. So the reason we don't use the 8% cap rate at the beginning is because this. We have to figure out every piece of the formula, all three, okay, pieces of the formula first. Because here's the thing, the property was already appraised for $100,000, meaning they had everything that they needed to solve for the problem, okay? It was appraised at $100,000, the 6% cap rate was used, and there was an income. They didn't give us the income in the problem, okay? Otherwise, this would actually have been a lot easier, okay? Then what happens is the investor says, well, wait a second, what would the value of the property be if we changed the cap rate to 8%? You know, what if the cap rate was changed? And that's a common thing that investors will do. They'll say, okay, so if I'm capitalizing this property at 6%, the value is 100,000. But what would the value be if the cap rate was raised? Like if we raised that, okay, based on the income, because everything's staying the same other than the cap rate. Because here's the thing, in order for you to do this problem, everything else has to stay the same. Otherwise, you need more information to solve it. So I hope you understood that one, guys, because that was a little tricky one. Could you plug the numbers into the IRV to clarify? And I think I did that right here. So what happens is the value is here. The rate is here. And that was the first step we did. Then we got income. So let me just do a couple of erasing, okay? Because there's a lot of lines going on, okay? So we multiplied the 100,000 times the 6%, which was what we got on the bottom. That was the rate times the value, okay? Then that gave us the income. Now, the final step that we took was divide the income of 6,000. That's where we plug it in there. And you divide it by the 8%. Now, something I want to tell you as you're looking at this problem is this. I have a tip that I want to make sure that you guys do this as often as possible. Plug your numbers into your calculator 2 to 3 to 4 times, okay? Because you want to make sure that you get that you get the right number, okay? Because there's a lot of times where you get butterfingers, okay? And that causes you to have issues with what you're getting on the calculator. So this was a little bit of a tricky question, okay? But I want to keep moving and grooving. So guys, let's take a look at this one, okay? This is another cap rate problem, and this one's a little more straightforward, but it's going to teach you another concept. So let's do another cap rate problem just to make it a little easier for you guys. So again, we see that this one doesn't say the word cap rate, okay? So someone said tricky makes it stick better. Yeah, look, you rather do the tricky questions with me because I could walk you through these. And also you're going to have this on recording. So we're going to watch this. You're going to watch this again. Okay. So here's the question. An office building earns $850,000 per year, and the expenses are 35% of that amount. If the property is capitalized at 12%, what is the approximate value? So here, we're going to write IRV right here. Why? Because we know that this is a cap rate problem. Okay. Why do I know it's a cap rate problem? It didn't say cap rate in the problem, Stu. No, but it says it is capitalized at 12%. 12% is the cap rate. So when we say that something is capitalized at, we would do that. So Shannon's doing something interesting. She said that she's multiplying the 850,000 times 35%. So what would you get? So Shannon, you're doing that math already. Why did you go ahead and do that? Why did you multiply 850,000 times 35%? So you got 297,000 for that. So to find the annual expenses. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Some people are automatically dividing, right? Some people are automatically dividing the 850,000 because you said that's the income. So Stu, that has to go where the I is. And then the cap rate is here. So this is just divide 850,000 by, and is it, oh, I'm sorry if the answer is, I'm trusting you guys in doing your math. It's 297,500. Thank you. I'm trusting your math. That's another reason why, yeah, the answer is not there if you're doing, whatchamacallit. The answer is not there because here's what I'm going to do. You have to take 850,000 and you have to back out the expenses, okay? You have to back out the expenses. So you take 850,000, multiply it by 35%, and you get 297,500. And what do you do with the expenses once you know it? You divide? No, those are the expenses. We have to take the expenses out of the gross income. You have to take them out. So what do we do when we get 850,000 minus 297,500? What do you guys get? Tell me the number. Okay. I see that you say get the difference. Let me see. Now you're going to make me, so it's 552,500. Because here's what you're going to learn with this. This is what you're going to learn with this problem, okay? That the 850,000 is the gross income. When we're talking about income, and I'm going to explain why we're subtracting and not multiplying and dividing. And this is why you have to use your critical thinking skills. Because when you see expenses, you have to get, so income is also referred to as net income. So if they just give you in the problem an income without expenses, then assume that it is net income. If they give you expenses, then you have to subtract the expenses out, okay? Because income is always going to be net income, and net is basically your gross subtracting the expenses. So here's what you do then. You take the 552,500, that is your income, and you divide that by the cap rate, because now you can plug that into IRV. You can't do that until you get to a point where you actually sit there and get the net income. So that's why you have to subtract the 35% out. And guys, just keep in mind too, that we're going to be going at, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. There isn't a perfect speed for everybody. Like there just isn't. There's no way for there to be. What I try to do is I try to stay on a problem long enough. So Brenda asked, where did you get 552,500? Okay. And what happened was that you have to first multiply 850,000 by 35%. That's going to give you 297,500, which were the expenses. Okay. You have to subtract that from 850,000, and you would get 552,500, which is the net income. And then you would be able to divide it by the cap rate of 12%. Okay. So you have to back the expenses out. Okay. Glad that you got that one. Awesome. Awesome. And that's why I try to help you guys. Like I said, there isn't a perfect speed for everybody. So there's going to be times where you're going to say, okay, I'm going to have to watch that again, or I'm going to have to watch that on replay. So, and I try to be respectful of everybody. So keep in mind, if I'm going too fast, don't worry about it. You're going to watch it on replay. If I'm going too slow, don't worry about it. We got plenty of time together. So someone said another one, please. This one's, yeah, it is understanding the lingo and how to plug it in. Now, this one is a totally different problem, and you guys are going to probably look at this one and have a little bit of trouble. So that's why I love this question. Love it, love it, love it, because there's two ways you could approach this. There's two ways that you can approach this. So Jones sold his home for $17,200. If this represents 9% more than what he paid for it, the cost of the home was most nearly what? So again, guys, what we're going to be trying to figure out is what are we trying to figure out? So talk to me. Tell me what we're trying to figure out here. What do we have to know with this problem? So how much more? How much more he paid, or I don't know if the answer is going to be how much more he paid, but I think that this is what he paid for it, right? What he paid for it. So he paid a certain amount. He made 9%. And then that 9% increase was 17,200. Do you guys all understand how I got there? Okay. So basically what happens is this. I'm going to explain to you a couple different ways. There are two ways to do this problem. There are two ways to do this, okay? I'm going to show you. So someone wrote 17,200 plus 9%. No. Look at what I just wrote out. Look at what I just wrote out. 17,200 is with the 9% increase, right? Because here's the thing. It says he sold his home for 17,200. If this, meaning the 17,200, represents 9% more than what he paid for it, the cost of the home, which is what he paid for it, is most nearly what? Oh, Beverly, 109%. So, well, here's the thing. It's not minus 9%, okay? So watch this. I'm going to use Pabst Blue Ribbon because we know that this is a rate formula, and there's a couple ways we could do this, okay? And the first way, and this is something you have to understand, okay? Pabst Blue Ribbon. You ready? What happens with Pabst Blue Ribbon is we have to understand first and foremost what the rate is. So here's the thing. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? The question I'm going to ask you is this. What did we multiply the base by to get this number? So what is the rate? And this is going to be interesting because a lot of you are going to type in 9%. What is the rate that we were actually 109%? Huh. So watch this. Whenever, listen to what I'm going to tell you guys. Perk your ears up. You ready? Whenever we're talking about a profit, it's 100% of what we started with plus a percent. So it's 100 and something percent. Okay? So it's 100 and something percent. If we said that we had a loss, it's less than 100%, right? So if we had a 9% loss, it would be 91%. Do you guys see that? Okay. So what happens is this. I'm going to erase this 91% because we didn't have a loss, right? We didn't have a loss. So what we have here is our rate that we're multiplying everything by is 109%. So watch this. I'm going to plug the numbers into Pabst Blue Ribbon, okay? 109% is the rate, okay? Now, the part is going to be, now Stu said something earlier. If the rate is larger than 100%, the part is bigger because I said to you, if I sit down and someone says to me, how much of this pizza pie do you want? And I say 110%, 109%, then what happens is I'm going to have a bigger part than the base. Okay. So Jess said, how did you get 109%? Because here's the thing. If I said to you that I had 9% more, then that means that we're including the original amount. So if I said to you, I have $10 and tomorrow I want to have 50% more, then you agree that I already have the $10. I'm going to continue to have the $10 plus an additional 50%. Meaning if we had to represent it numerically, it would be 150%. So in this one, when they say you have 9% more, okay, then what happens is this. It's going to be a situation where it's going to be 109%. So if we take the rate of 109% and then we take the part, and why do we know it's the part? Okay. We know it's the part because the part is always bigger than the base when the rate is greater than 100, okay? Yeah, so it's more than what he paid, which is 100% plus something. So this is 109%. So here we go. The formula that we're going to use is 17,200 divided by 109%, which is represented as 1.09 on your calculator. So you're talking about 15,500 on that one. And let me show you a couple different ways you could have done this, because your brain might be mushy potatoes right now, where you say, Stu, I totally will never do it that way, ever, no matter how many times I watch this. And that's cool. I'm cool with that. Because here's the thing. You could multiply each one of these by 109%. You could do that. Okay, you could just multiply by 109%. Or if you said to me, Stu, I would never get 109%. I just never would have gotten 109% because that's not a number that you see there. That's a number that you have to pull out of your tuchus. Cool. Awesome. What I'll tell you is this. You could have also, watch this, multiplied each of these numbers by 9%. Okay, and then added it back in. Okay, so let me see. Some of you guys are giving me different answers because let me see what the actual answer is. It might be the 15,800. And I'm doing this all off the top of my head, so you got to bear with me too. Okay, it's 15,800. Yeah, so you guys were right in saying that. So I apologize about that. I thought it was a 15,500, but I'm doing this all off the top of my head because this is stuff that questions I've written before. So yeah, I apologize. I had a case of the mornings. So you could have. So here's the thing. Yeah, you could have done it the longest way, which is take 9% of each answer, added it back to each answer, and then gotten to 17,200. Okay. So what I will tell you is this. My goal is to just make sure that you understand the different ways you get to it, the easiest way you could possibly get to it. And again, if you don't understand that, then just walk away with some simple concepts that might help you. If you see something says more than what they paid for, then that's 100 and something percent. If it's less than, then it's a number that is less than 100%, right? Now, here's another one. I always like do it. Okay. How do you know that you're going to use the Pabst Blue Ribbon method? Okay. So here's the thing. Like, I'm going to tell you a dirty little secret right now. Okay. Dirty little secret is that Irv is Pabst Blue Ribbon. It's just changing the words up so that you potentially understand it a little better. Okay. So anytime there's a rate, so technically in a cap rate problem, you could technically use Pabst Blue Ribbon if you understand that the part is the income, the base is the value, and the rate is the cap rate. I just changed the words up because also, like, that little jingle, Uncle Irv wears a cap, that's like really easy, and I get to know where everything goes. But the dirty little secret is it's a Pabst Blue Ribbon. Whenever you see a rate, whenever you see a percentage, you could always go back to Pabst Blue Ribbon, okay? So here's a great question. And just so you guys know, if you've ever sat in on any of my math classes, I almost always ask this question, okay? So for those of you who know, great, fantastic. For those of you who don't know, let's look at this. This is a long one. Pat purchased a brand new piece of income property for $180,000. The listed price was $220,000. Pat considered this a good deal on his part since he only put $10,000 down and acquired a new first trust deed for the difference. The tax assessed value was indicated at $150,000. Pat's cost basis for income tax purposes would be. So, and Taria wrote in, I learned it, the part over the percent times the whole in the T-chart. Same thing. So however, listen, there's more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to math, and I always say that. So whichever way works for you, and again, that's why I always say, if you're not getting it, don't worry, because you're going to go back to what is familiar and comfortable for you. I'm just trying to give you a whole bunch of different ways you could possibly come to it so that at least you walk away with something. That's my goal, is that you walk away with something. So guys, what are they asking for in this question? That's an important thing here. What are they asking for in this question? Can someone type that into the chat for me? Can someone type into the chat? What are they asking for? They're asking for Pat's cost basis, right? Okay. So let me ask you this. How would you come up with Pat's cost basis? What are we going to do? Is there a formula? What are we going to figure out here? So what's the first step we're going to do? I want you guys to tell me. Yeah. So I got a question mark here. 220 minus 180,000. Here's the thing. Let me ask you this question. Okay. What is the cost basis? What is the cost basis? It's what he paid for the property. The answer is 180,000. Lesson that you learned on this one. Lesson that you learned on this one? Okay. Number one, save all the math for the end of the test. Okay? Save all the math for the end of the test. Number two, every single long question is not difficult. Okay? Number three, just because there's numbers in the answer doesn't mean you're going to do a single iota of math. Okay? So you learned a really, really, really good lesson here. So here's the thing. Remember, I kept telling you in every single question. Yeah. So if you didn't know, someone said I'm awake now. If you didn't know what they were asking you for, hence why, look, this is why the very first step that I say in each of these math problems, I write down a couple things that I know, right? Like, do you see how in the cap rate problems, I was writing down IRV. I was like, okay, great. We know that. We know this. You know, now with this, what I did was I said to you, what are they asking for? Because that's in every question that we've approached, I've always asked, what are they asking you for? So in this one, if you didn't know what Pat's cost basis was or how to come up with that, then this is a four-sided coin that you could flip and get the right answer, okay? So the cost basis for tax purposes is always what they paid for it. Yep. And then if it says adjusted cost basis, that's after adjustments, okay? Whatever adjustments they give you. So yeah, cost basis is that. So who wants to do a little, we'll go back to that one. Because I like commission problems because I think that you're always going to get a commission problem, okay? You're always going to get a commission problem. So Juliet said, my issue is I have to look up math vocab, cap rate, PT, cost basis. Yeah, so here's the thing. It's not only understanding the vocab behind it, okay? It's understanding what it is they're asking you, okay? So that you could really get to a point where you understand what it is, okay? And that's the best thing that I could tell you. So let's look at this problem, okay? And again, you're always going to have a commission problem, and I think that this is a really great commission problem because I think that they're easy to solve in some senses, and then in some senses they are not, okay? So let's look at the question first, okay? And get ready for what I'm going to ask you. You know, you already should know what is Stu going to approach us with as far as when he's done reading the problem, okay? And here's how this reads. A house sold for $95,000 with a sales commission rate of 7.5%. The listing broker received 50% of the total commission, and the selling broker received 50%. How much would the selling salesperson receive if the selling broker kept 60% and gave 40% to the salesperson. Okay, so let's figure this out. What are they asking us for? What are they asking us for? What do you think? What do you think, guys? So don't do math. No, don't do math yet. Don't do math yet. What the selling broker will get? Is that what they say? Is that what they're asking for? So follow me on this one. I think they're asking for what the selling salesperson would get. Yeah, and understand that they're two different people. So guys, what is the first step going to be? The first step on this is going to be what? What is that first step? It's going to be 95,000 times 7.5%. And for those of you who want to get used to, because here's the thing, I will tell you this, a lot of people don't use Pabst Blue Ribbon for this because they understand exactly what they need to do, okay? So what happens is we'll just put Pabst Blue Ribbon over here, okay? And the part over the base times the rate. And what'll happen is this. You always, so this is a base times a rate problem if you wanted to figure out what it was, okay? So it's a base times a rate problem, okay? And what happens is this. When you have that, you get 7,125, right? And what we have to do is this. We have to understand, okay? We have to understand what that represents, okay? So what that represents is this. That represents the total commission, right? So that's the total commission, right? Because that's the total commission, okay? Sales commission of that off of the 95,000. So that is the gross. Now, here's what it says, okay? Let's read this. It says that the listing broker and the selling broker both receive 50%. So we have to have that. We have to split that in half. So what's 50% of that? And that should be $3,562.50, right? Now, someone asked, is the selling broker, like you're getting confused with the vernacular, the verbiage here, right? You're getting confused with, oh, what is this one and what is that one and who's this one to that one, right? So what happens is this. Let me just get you used to a little bit of the vernacular that they're using. They're going to refer to the buyer's agent or the buyer's broker as the selling broker or the selling agent, okay? So what happens is this, when it comes to, you know, words that we use in real estate, some people get confused with that if you're not used to seeing how they use the verbiage. But the buyer's agent is sometimes referred to as the selling agent, okay, or the selling broker. Now, here's the thing. They use two different terminologies here. They use the terminology of broker and they use the terminology of salesperson. Understand that when they're talking about broker, they're probably talking about on the brokerage level. Okay, when they talk about a salesperson and they differentiate the two in the question, they're typically referring to a salesperson within that brokerage. So how I read this question is that the listing brokerage is going to receive 50%, and then the selling or buyer's brokerage is going to receive 50%. So Brenda, the way that you did it, here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? The first thing that you did was you got the total commission, but then you didn't split that in half, because do you see how the listing broker and the selling broker both receive 50%? So you have to get down to this level of $3,562.50. Now that we have that, okay, we have to figure out, so the selling broker received 50%. So that's what they got. Now, the broker kept 60 and gave 40% to the salesperson. So what do we have to figure out now? Now we have to multiply it by 0.40. So what number did you get there? Yeah, it's a junky split, right? 1425. Absolutely. Does that make sense, guys? Let me know. Type it in the chat. Because this was a longer one, and I wanted to see that you got it, that you followed along with me, okay? So again, this was a more complicated one. Okay. These I can do, that's my money. Yeah. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Oh, I like this one. Actually, we're going to go to another rate question because I have a better one for you guys. See, I know where all the questions are, okay? Oh, this one's a good one, okay? Let's see if you guys get this one, okay? Yeah, commission problems are easy. So here's the thing. I do a commission problem every single math one because you have to know how to do them. But for some reason, you guys do get the commissions a little easier. So let's do this one super complicated. This is what I refer to as a seller net problem, okay? You will probably get a seller's net problem on your exam, okay? You will, yeah, we need to know how we get paid. Yeah, I get that, totally. So a seller's net problem you will see on your exam, okay? And what we have to do is we have to figure out how these are worded and how you get to a point where you start basically getting to a point where you could better understand how to come up with the answer here. So let's read this, and we got to figure out how we get to the last step, okay? So a salesperson is trying to determine how much to suggest for a listing price. The lot is worth $20,000, and the house is 1,500 square feet at $50 per square foot, and a 6% sales commission is to be included. The price that will meet this is. So what are we looking for? What information are we looking for? We're looking for the sales price. We're looking for what is the sales price that we're going to get to with this one, okay? We're looking for what the sales price is. We're looking for the sales price. That's what it is. So someone said based on square feet. So we're looking for the total sales price because here's the thing. There's a lot of different things here, okay? There's a lot of different components that are going to go into the sale price. So here's what we have. You ready? First and foremost, we have the lot at $20,000, right? So that has to be included in the sales price. Then we have the home at 1,500 square feet. That's going to be $50 a square foot, okay? So I would multiply those two together. And what do you get? You should get 75,000, right? Right? That's what you should get for the home. So this is for the lot. And then this one's for the home. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. We got to do a little more digging, a little more math here. So if we added those two numbers up, right? If we added the 20,000 and the 75,000, right? So we added the 20 and the 75, you would get 95,000. Then someone said multiply by 6%. No, whoa. No. Everyone does that. You are wrong. You are wrong. Because the 95,000, understand this, you have to watch how this question works, okay? And I'm going to show you a couple things. Okay, so we have the 95,000. So we don't need the lot here. We don't need all that stuff. No. You don't multiply it by 6%. Because here's what it says. Okay, it says there's a price. So here are the answers. And what has to be included in those is a 6% commission and then that number. So the fact that they say the commission needs to be included in this, it's not 6% of 95,000, okay? 95,000 represents 94% of the magic number that you need. So you're not going to multiply it by 6% because that won't make sense, okay? So let me show you a couple of ways that you could get to the answer on this one, okay? So you could divide by 94%. Yes. But let's not do that because I want to show you a couple different ways that you would be able to get this. First, which some of you might do, if you said the lot and the sale price, if you knew that it was 95,000 was the lot price and the house price, then what you could do is you could say, okay, I just need to take 6% off of each of these numbers and then see which one gives me 95,000, okay? So you could do that if that's the way that your mind would work in this situation. But what you have to do is, and this is the hardest part, is recognizing what you have at each step of the way. That's why I'm trying to walk you through it. And here's the thing, a lot of you guys do the questions very fast. Don't do the questions fast. Please don't do the questions fast, because here's what happens. Stop to smell the roses so that you get to see what it is you have at each step of the way. So right here, you could divide by 94% and you would get 101,064. Or you could do it the other way that I said, which is back 6% out of each of the answers, but you would have to go through each of them unless you realize that taking 6% out of 95,000 would not work ever. So how did you get the 94%? So what happens is this, okay? The reason we got the 94% is that, and that's where people always get confused, where I'm getting 94%. So what happens is this. The 6% commission has not been included yet, okay? Because when we're saying we have the lot and the house price and a 6% commission, what happens is all we have right now is 94% of the sale price. All we have with those two numbers is 94% of the sale price. So what happens is you can't multiply the 94% by, so what happens is this. A lot of you guys are saying, oh, we would take the 6% and we would multiply it by the 95%. But if you understand what it is you have, then you'll understand that you can't multiply the 6% there to figure out how you come up with the other 6% of this number that you don't know. So what you could do is you could back 6% out of each of these numbers and see which one would yield 95,000, or you could understand that 95,000 is 94% of one of those numbers. So either way, you have to understand that we have not gotten to 100% yet. The answers are 100%. So that's why, and a couple of you are, yeah, so that's why, Jess, you got the right answer. Angela, I see that you got it. And again, I know that this is torturous, and it's always hard whenever I'm working with math, because here's the thing. I work with you guys also on a one-on-one level. So if you do want private tutoring, I have that available. If like you're saying, hey, I want some one-on-one time. So what I need to do is I need to sit down with you and just kind of go through this at my speed. That's something you could do, okay? And that's why it's something that some of you might want that. I will tell you this. When it comes to the math, I wouldn't sweat it much more than what I'm telling you, because either, again, you get it or you don't get it, okay? It's not one of those where you're going to sit there and all of a sudden it's just going to magically come to you, because, again, I am fighting a very, very difficult fight as adult learners for you guys. So it's very hard to come up with ways that everyone's going to be able to learn. So I try to do it in the best way possible with being respectful to you guys, going at a pace that is not super slow, but not 90 miles an hour. So let's look at this one, okay? Let's look at this question. So if the transfer taxes are payable at a rate of 55 cents per $500 or part thereof, what is the grantor's cost on a $49,750 sale? Is the commission the pie? So if we're talking about, and I'll just kind of go through that first, Beverly, because you asked a question that maybe I didn't clarify. So if it's part over the base times the rate, okay, what happens is this. The sale price is the pie, and then the rate is our commission rate, and then the part is what slice we take. So what happens is, picture this. This is my little commission slice. Okay, we take that at a 6% rate, let's just say. And the part would be, let's say it's a $100,000 home, it would be $6,000. Just doing some quick little math just to show you as you're looking at this question. So guys, now that we've kind of given you some time to digest this, and I hope that helped you. So the part is the commission, okay? The rate is the commission rate, and the sale price is the whole pie, okay? So what are they asking us in this question? As I took a little sip of water, what are they asking for us in this commission? In this problem, listen to me, I'm saying in this commission. You got me saying commission so many times now. So they're not asking for the tax rate, okay? Because listen. Here's the tax rate. 55 cents per 100. See, payable at a rate of 55 cents per 500. So we know the rate, okay? The cost, okay, so here's the thing. That's the cost, okay? So we're trying to find the taxes, yeah, okay? So we're trying to find the transfer taxes, okay? So here's what I like to talk about. This is the first time in our lesson today that we're seeing a per question, a per question. So what do I mean by a per question? That is when they give you a situation where they say blank per at a rate per something. So when I see at a rate of 55 cents per 500, okay, what I see is this. I treat the per as a division symbol, okay? That's what I do. Listen, you guys might have a different way of doing this. I always treat per as a division symbol. So what the very first step that I would do in this problem is convert that tax rate, okay? Convert that tax rate into something that I could multiply. So I would do 0.55 divided by 500, okay? Divided by 500, okay? So per, I use the division symbol. So 0.55 divided by 500. So tell me what that answer would be as we're going along. Yeah, 0.0011 sounds just about right. 0.0011. So here's what I'm going to tell you. For you guys getting 11, okay, understand this. You did 55 divided by 500, okay? And here's the trick here, because this question also gives you another trick. It said 55 cents. So it didn't say 0.55, but when they say 55 cents, they mean 0.55. So understand that. Carefully read your questions, please. Because what happens is that's the difference between you getting one number and you getting another number, okay? So we have 0.0011 as our tax rate, okay? Now, what do we do with our tax rate? Okay, it's yeah, and someone said I read too fast. So you've been one of the math rock stars, and I will tell you this: even if you know and you're really good at this stuff, and you're like, oh man, I got it. If you read it too fast, you will get the wrong answer, okay? 100% of the time. You have to slow it down. That's why I take my time on this, okay? That's why I take my time and I ask you guys, you know, all these questions, okay? And I try to make sure that we get the right answers. So now we're going to multiply this by our 49,750. Someone said I did it 3 times on my calculator and finally got it. Yeah, please do your math several times on your calculator, because what happens is you will get to a point where you're actually sitting there and getting different numbers sometimes, or you have the butterfingers, okay? You're nervous, okay? Nerves do a lot of weird physiological things to you guys, okay? And it does a lot of things where you might be sweating, you might be like sitting there trying to do something. Just kind of, what I'll tell you is this, just do it a few times. The answer to this one would be 55, you know, 54.725 rounded up to $55. So do you guys see that? And also something too, now that we're almost about an hour into answering questions, okay, into actually answering questions, what I hope that you realize is the reason why I tell you to save your questions till the end, because when you get into math mode, what happens is they sort of come a little easier. And do you see how kind of like your brain's warmed up a little bit and you're like, oh man, I'm getting a little better at this. Like it's coming a little easier, right? So give me a smiley face if you're saying, okay, yeah, the engine's warmed up a little bit. Okay, so I'm getting it. I'm totally getting it. Yeah, you see how it just makes it a little easier, okay? We did that. And I'm just trying to find one that I really like, because there was a couple that I really liked today that I wanted to ask you guys, and I was like, oh man. Yes. So Paula said, I got there differently, but still got the right answer. You probably divided 500 by divided the 49,750 by 500, or did something similar to that. And you could do that. But what I usually like to do, and again, I'm showing you my way of doing it. My way of doing it, I like just taking the blank per blank and just treating it as a division symbol and dividing that right there. Just so that I always know blank per blank divide. I just divide that, okay? It just, like I said, for me, it makes it easier, So, because I just always see that and I get to that point. Wow, this one's complicated. Holy Toledo's. So this one, well, you're not going to get this one wrong because you're with me. So here's what I will tell you. A commercial building is 5 stories tall. It is 300 feet wide and 200 feet long. Each story is 12 feet high. How much would this building cost to build if it were 79 cents per cubic foot? I get to draw. You ever see Stu draw a Rubik's Cube or a cube? You haven't yet. But let me tell you, my cubes are beautiful. They're one of the best cubes on the internet, okay? You would guess. You're not guessing. No, we don't guess, okay? Look at Stu's cube. Isn't that a beautiful cube? Okay? So whenever we're talking about cubic foot, it is a three-dimensional object, okay? Square feet are flat. So if I had this, we would be talking about square feet because it's a square. When it comes to cube, it has a third dimension. There's an X, Y, and also Z axis. Okay, so there's three axes on this. Okay, so there's this one, and then the height. Okay, so what is the first thing we're going to do? So this is 300 feet wide, right? And then it is 200 feet long and 12 feet high. Now, you don't have to be a great artist and draw this all for yourself, okay? Okay. That is one impressive cube, isn't it? So it's, well, I hope you're talking about my drawing skills, but it is an impressive cube as far as size as well, right? Because we're talking about a building, okay? We're talking about cubic square feet. So what happens is this, cubic feet, okay? Yeah. So, and here's the thing, you could draw a cube yourself if you want, you know, it's just something that you, or even picture one in your head and just kind of like jot some things down. So what happens is this, what are we going to do with all this information? You know, because they're asking us for how much it costs per cubic square feet. So what are we doing with this information? So divide, I don't know if we're going to divide, because here's the thing. When we have a two-dimensional object, right, we're going to multiply the two sides. So what happens is when we have a three-dimensional object, we want to multiply the sides and then the 12 feet. We multiply everything. So multiply all this stuff together. Tell me what crazy, crazy number you get. What do you cool cats get? So someone said you take the whole entire thing, then multiply by 5 stories. I like where you're going with that, but we're not there yet. So let's multiply the 300 by the 200. Okay. And I'm going to do this along with you. So we have 300 times 200 times 12 is 720,000, right? So that's how many cubic feet are in each story, right? Each story is 720,000 cubic feet, okay? Now, someone put in earlier that we're going to multiply it by 5. Why? Because it's 5 stories tall. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories tall, right? So we're going to multiply that by 5. And what do you get when you multiply that by 5? You get a really big number. Something like 3,600,000, right? 3,600,000. Okay, I see you. And what's our final step going to be in this problem? What's our final step going to be as I take a sip of water? Multiply it by the cost, which is 0.79. Okay. We do that, and that's what, 2,844,000 if my math is right, as I draw everywhere. So guys, give me a thumbs up if you're like, wow, I got it. Yeah, it definitely helps to warm up the engine when it comes to math, right? It helps. It helps once we're kind of moving and grooving. Okay. Some problems are just multiply all over the place. Yeah. Some problems are like that. And here's the thing. So guys, what I want you to know is this. You first came to this problem and a couple of you were going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. it's not a hard problem. Like, don't psych yourself out before you even get to the problem, okay? So let's talk about an amortization table, because I cannot do a math class without talking about an amortization table. Okay, I can't do it. I can't do it because you will have an amortization table question. Okay, so are you going to be, so Jess wrote in, whatchamacallit, are we getting this on the test? I don't remember seeing this the first time. An amortization question, depending on your state, for the 300-foot question like that, like a cubic question, you may. What happened is this: when it comes to a cubic question, I just like letting you know that, because some people really get freaked out when they see cubic feet. Whatchamacallit. So someone said, these are interesting. One time I got 3 questions, the next none. So what happens is this: I think it's important to learn some concepts just so that you have them, because again, I don't think I would be doing you justice if I didn't just touch on like a couple things that I'm like, all right, I need to at least make sure you know this, okay? So, so what happens is this. Let me ask you the question. So we have an amortization table here, okay? And I think that once we understand, here's what I need you to do. I need you to understand that this is like a multiplication table. There's a lot of different questions that they could ask you based off of the amortization table, okay? But what happens is this: the real understanding comes from basically being able to being able to understand what you're seeing here, okay? So guys, what do we see here? What is this? What is this? Like, so I see a rate over here, okay? You don't, so if you're working on in the if you're working in the if industry in any manner, shape, or form, this is a little easier for you. So the first thing that you have in the amortization table is the rate, okay? The rate. So what they have to do is this: they have to give you a rate. So let's say you were given a rate of 3%, and they told you that the loan was going to be for 20 years, okay? So a rate of 3% at 20 years. So you go down to where they meet, and then you would get this. But what is that? What is that? Like, I don't understand what that is. Do you guys have any idea? So what this is right here, that number, the 5.54598, and we're going to be working with that number, the 5.54598, is the monthly payments per $1,000 of a mortgage. The monthly payments. Now, let me ask you this. So Beverly said it's interest and principal. Yeah, that is interest and principal. Because here's why. Why is it interest and principal? Because they're already taking the rate into consideration. The interest rate and principal for $1,000 of a mortgage. So let me ask you this. I'm going to put another Post-it note up there. You ready? Here's the next Post-it note. Next Post-it note says, what would my payment be on a $250,000 mortgage? Okay. So here, we're going to be using the 5.5498. How do you figure that out? How do you figure that out? Tell me in the chat. I want to know. I want to know. I want to know. Multiply? What do you multiply? You gotta eat. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little cheat. Are you ready? Because do you remember I told you guys, because remember I said I like you and I will help you. Listen to how much I love you. Okay? Divide. So if you want to know, and like if you want to get helped with this chart, watch this. Okay? If you want to know how to just what number to divide by, do you remember I told you blank per something means divide? So that is your monthly payment per 1,000. So 5.54598. You could divide by 1,000. Why do I tell you to do that? Because if I give you a tool, I want to show you all the different places you could use it. Okay? So I told you that you could always do that. 5.54598 divided by 1,000. And you would get something like 0.00554598. If you multiply that by the loan amount times 0.00554598, you would get your monthly payments of $1,386.50. Do you guys see how I did that and what I did to get there? And what I did to get there. And now do you understand that I'm doing that because, like I said, I'm trying to, if I'm going to teach you a concept, I'm going to try to show you how you could use that in different things, okay? So whenever you want to get to something, you could do that. So whenever you see monthly payment per something, okay, you could do that. So here's the thing. Everyone always asks me, Stu, could you use that situation for everything? Sure, you can, because I just showed you you could. Because you see how it says monthly payment. So when all these are monthly payments per 1,000, if you want to figure out what your monthly payments are, okay, you could just do that. Now I'm going to throw you for a curveball, okay? I'm going to throw you for a curveball. Per is divide. Yeah, absolutely. And usually of is multiply, just so you know, if you wanted to figure it out, right? So here's the thing, like stupid little like tip. Do you see where it says monthly payment per 1,000 of the mortgage? They're giving you the math formula if you understand per is divide and of is mortgage. Look at it, look at it, look at it. Monthly payment divided by 1,000 multiplied by the mortgage. Oh my God, Stu, you're a genius. Oh my gosh. Stu, thank you so much. They actually give you the cheat sheet. They tell you the answers. They tell you the answers. Oh my gosh, Stu. This per meaning divide and of meaning multiply. Thank you. All right, that's it. Done. Let's shut off the webinar. We don't need to learn anymore. Yeah, that's it. We've learned everything we need to know. So Shannon asked, is the no, we're still doing more, Tammy. So it's is this the interest rate? No, it is not. So this is the monthly payment. That's interest plus the principal per $1,000 of a mortgage, okay? So this is everything rolled into one. So that's why when I told you, hey, what would the monthly payments on a $250,000 mortgage be? We could figure that out, okay? Rate factor is a term you learned. Yes, you don't have to worry about rate factor here. And I highly doubt you would get a question with the rate factor, because what happens is this. When it comes to, no, the answer is there, but I don't get it. So let me ask you this. Just if you don't get it, I will ask you this. If you could clarify what it is you're missing, I'd be more than happy to try to help you out with it. But like I said, clarify for me so I can help you out, okay? How did you get 1386.50? So again, I did, like I said, I told you that anytime you see per, you divide. So all of these are monthly payments per 1,000. So what I did right here, okay, I divided the monthly payment per 1,000. Then I took that number, and remember I said of means multiplied, and I told you there's a $250,000 purchase price. Then here's the answer right there. You multiply that number by 250,000 and you would get the monthly payments that they would get on that. Okay, so that's the answer right there as far as the steps we took to get there. All right, so next thing that I want to say is this. Ready? Okay. Oh, no, I don't want text. I don't want that. Nope. Select. There we go. Now, let's say I told you that my budget was $1,200 per month. And I was approved for the 20-year mortgage, okay, at 3%. Oh. Yes, I am teaching how to analyze. I try to teach how to analyze because I think that the analytical skills and how to get to something is more important than the actual, whatchamacallit, than the actual answer. I think that the answer is almost irrelevant because if you answer questions just to answer them, then without understanding it, okay, then you don't get there, okay? You don't get there. So me, here's, like, I'll give you a perfect example. My mother, actually, she might even be in the chat right now watching because she's an agent. She works with me on my team, okay? She just learned how to jar tomato sauce, okay, from my Italian grandmother, who's like 800 years old, map of Italy, sharper than all of us put together, could run circles around us. Fantastic. She learned how to jar tomatoes. And what happens is, and she says, I'm here. And Juliet, we will do frontage. I'll do that next. And I will tell you this. I think that she could tell you and she could attest to this, that the process is more important than the actual end result. Like the process is so important. So that's why we analyze things, okay? The process of doing anything is more important than the end result, because if you understand the process and how to get there, you could just rinse, repeat, and just do it over again. So guys, I have a $1,200 monthly budget, okay? Okay. I have a $1,200 monthly budget, okay? And I'm approved for the 20-year loan, okay? And I am at 3% interest rate. How much could I afford? So we're going to put another sticky note here, and we're going to go through this. We're going to say, how much can we afford, okay? So we're basically going to be using this 5.5498. But what happens is we're going to be going through a little bit of a different process to get there. So guys, I want to know what you think your first step would be. As I comment also on the fact that, yes, my family works together. I work with my mother. She's a tremendous help. And it's something that she actually, you know, a thank you to her. She's the one that kind of makes this move forward when you guys have questions, concerns, and I'm actually in a class or I'm in a chat. She mans my phones for me. She makes sure the text messages go through and that if you guys have questions. So big thank you to my mother for that. And guys, what do you got for the, what's your first step? What's your first step? What's your first step here? Let's see. Some people are saying thanks, Stu's mom. Yeah, she's the silent little helper here. So let's do this. The first step that we want to do is, I know you guys want to multiply. You always love multiplying. But in this one, what we have to figure out is this. We have to figure out how much we can afford, okay? So if our budget is $1,200, okay? If our budget is $1,200, we have to figure out how many of the monthly payments can fit into our budget. So we're going to take $1,200, which is our budget, and divide it by the monthly payments. Okay, 5.54598. So here's the thing so what I'm telling you right now, and I hope I know I've been saying Tammy, but I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong. What we're saying now is this: don't look too much into it. I just told you, here's your monthly budget. okay? And we're working off of this. So don't look at more or less of the of like a real life scenario, like, oh, we'd have to include insurance and taxes and all that stuff. We're talking about just this right now, okay? So don't worry about anything else. Take the question exactly the way you see it, because what they would be trying to test you on in this is I just showed you how you would work the amortization table one way. I'm trying to show you how you would work the amortization table another way, kind of reverse engineering it, okay? Our monthly budget is $1,200, okay? And that would give us $216.37. Now, the 216.37 is how many of the payments fit into our budget, okay? So what happens is this. We now have to, okay, multiply by 1,000 to figure that out. Because, again, we know now this is basically, we're reverse engineering it a little bit, okay? We're taking that monthly payment, we're figuring out how many times it goes into 1,200, okay? And we know it goes into it 216 times. Now we have to multiply that by 1,000, and that would give us the mortgage that we could afford, which is going to be $216,370, okay? So guys, let me ask you this question. Do you understand how an amortization table works? Frontwards, backwards. I just gave you two examples of questions that you might get off of an amortization table. Yes. Okay. So I'm sorry if you're having a bad connection. I will tell you this, I will be recording it and the audio should be crystal clear as far as that's concerned. So feel free to watch the replay on that one. So do you round down? Thank you for that. It depends. It depends on what the question asks you. So take the question exactly as it is and don't look too much into it. Okay. So that's what I would say. So you asked for a frontage question and I deliver. Look at that. I had it right here. I had a frontage question right here. Okay. So what I will tell you is this. The question reads, a 5-acre lot has a frontage of 300 feet. How long is it? Okay. Now, what I will tell you is this. Frontage is, and I'm going to move this up just a little bit so you can see. Frontage is where the lot meets the street typically, okay? So it's where the lot meets the street. So right here, and I actually, on this question, I wrote out my math as far as how I get there, okay? How I get to that problem, all right? So what happens is this, whenever you see contradicting measurements, acreage and feeties, okay? You have to make sure that we are converting them into the sames, okay? Meaning you have a 5-acre lot. That's how much this whole lot is. So what happens is you're multiplying a frontage, which is 300, times something equals 5 acres. Okay? So what happens is this. The first step that you would do is multiply the 5 acres by 4 old men driving 35 and a 60. So that is 217,800, okay? So that's how many feet this is. So it's 217,800, okay? 217,800. Then what you do is you divide by 300 and you would get your wonderful, beautiful, fantastic answer, okay? And that is the answer, 726 feet. Now, here's something you could have done. Like another way you could have come to this, if you're like, I would never have divided by 300. That's cool. If you could draw that lot on your piece of paper, and you would understand that one side is going to be 300 and then the other side is unknown, and you know that the square footage is 217,800, then what happens is this. You could just multiply 300 by all of the answers until you get the 217,800. And someone asked, is it always multiply and then divide for frontage questions? Well, no. So what happens is this. If you're asking me for the definition of frontage, frontage is basically the width of a lot, okay? Because it's going to be the front of it where it basically meets the street. So the frontage is that point, that measurement, okay? So depending on what they're asking you, so it would be hard for me to say that you always multiply or you always divide, because in this scenario, you could do either or, because I just showed you how you could literally just sit here and multiply the whole way, okay? Well, amortization is different. It's a different question, right? And what happens is, again, we're talking about different, think of them as, my mother making the sauce. It's different recipes. In one, you're talking about sauce, and then in the other one, you're talking about chicken parm. Okay, yes, they're similar, they're recipes, but they're different. How you go about each one is different. So what happens is, and they're different skill sets. So what happens is, don't try to, and I think that a lot of people with math, and this is something important for me to kind of say to you guys so you hear, a lot of people with math are trying to link similarities to everything. Here's the thing. There are times when there will be similarities, and there will times where there will be differences, kind of like in my Italian kitchen, okay? There are times when you could have a sauce dish, and then you could have lasagna that you make, and then there's times that it could be just chicken franchise. And okay, yes, it's a dish, but it doesn't have anything to do with red tomato sauce, that's the whole thing. So there are times when there will be cross-pollination with things, and then there will be times where you won't have that. So what I'm going to say is, where there are similarities, embrace them. Where there are differences, understand that there are differences, and sometimes there just won't be an exact correlation to them. So understand that there's not going to be a situation where you can always link one math problem to another math problem. Sometimes it works out, and that's why when you're doing an instructor-led course like this, I'll tell you where there's linkage, right? Like in the per situation, there's linkage, okay? In Pabst Blue Ribbon, there's linkage, okay? Pabst Blue Ribbon and IRV, right, for cap rate, similarities, okay? There are things there that we could look at that are the same, that will be cross-pollination, will be similar. We could use similar techniques, okay? Something like this, frontage, understand what frontage is, and then you'll have to apply it to the question depending on how it's being read to you. So, that being said, okay, nope. Let's do this one. I love this one. And I'm glad that you're understanding it so far. And guess what? That's the goal. A little dirty secret. That's the goal. Okay. So here, this is a great question, and I love proration questions. And I want to make sure that at least every single math class that I do one proration question. Okay. Don't say, we love proration. Proration's our friend. Okay. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it doesn't like you. I think it really likes you. You ready? Let's read the question. On July 6th, the property sold. The water bill of $95 and the yearly tax bill of $5,200 will be paid by the buyer for the current year. When prorated at closing, what amount does the seller owe the buyer? Round your answer to the nearest dollar. Now, guys, there are a few questions like this on the test, hence why I'm giving it to you. So let's talk about a couple things that we need to talk about. And before we answer the question, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to say that the water bill of $95, that is an annual number, just to not confuse you, okay? Well, here's the thing. Someone said, bless my heart for doing math. Listen, little dirty secret, you guys that are watching this live, you're paying for this. So thank you for coming here this early in the morning. I appreciate it. And that's why, look, I do what I do. I love what I do. And you guys asked for this, so that's why I wanted to deliver on it. So you guys wanted this, and I have no problem doing it. So many more to come from this, because you guys keep asking for more, and I keep delivering on that. So that being said, so July 6th, the property sold. So let's talk about how we prorate, okay? Let's talk about how we prorate. So how we prorate is this. We work off of a banking calendar, and that's 60 days in a year, okay? And 30 days. Someone said, I think it's cool when we pay because we take it seriously. I think it's cool when you pay because it helps me put food on the table. So, yeah, you know, it works all around. And guess what? I'll tell you this: when you do things like this, it supports me. It supports what we do here, and it gives me more time to do more videos, to do more more interaction with you guys. So the more that you guys support this, the more that I have time to invest into this and give you more things for free, and like put out videos on the YouTube and do all this kind of stuff. So yeah, like I said, big thank you. And I think that as we wrap this up, this is something that I have to always say whenever I say that. So let's take a look at this math problem, okay? So July 6th, the property sold. So guys, here's what I'm going to ask you, okay? Here's what I'm going to ask you. If the property sold on July 6th, how long was the seller in the home? How long was the seller in the home? Based off of 360 days in a year, 30 days in a month. So they were in the home, let's say July is the 7th month, right? So would you say 6 full months and 5 days? Okay, because the 206 days, no, not 206 days. 185. Because here's the thing, you ready? Closing day, day of settlement always goes to the buyer. Day of settlement, always responsibility of the buyer. So the seller was in the home 6 full months, multiply that by 30, and 5 days. So they were in the house 185 days. 185 days. Okay. Now, what I always do is this. Whenever I work on a proration problem, okay? Whenever I work on a proration problem, I always tell you, and this is the easiest way to do this. I'm going to give you the hard way, and then I'm going to give you the easy way, okay? So someone asked me how I, how I got to 185 days. The seller was in the home, because here's the thing, we have to figure out how much the seller will owe the buyer, okay? So what happens is this. It basically says the water bill and the yearly tax bill will be paid by the buyer. So what happens, that means at the end of the year, they're gonna pay $5,295, $5,295. So the buyer's going to pay that at the end of the year. That's the tax bill that's due and the water bill that's due December 31st. So what happens is at the time of settlement, the seller has to give the buyer the portion of it that they basically owe for the time that they were in it. So what we have to figure out in this little post-it note down here in the lower right, how long were the sellers in the home? And what happens is it was July 6th that the property closed. So the seller was in the home for 6 full months and 5 days, because the buyer takes responsibility on day of settlement. So 6 times 30 is 180, plus 5 is 185, because what we are working on is a banking calendar. The banking calendar is always 360 and 30 days in a month, okay? Always that. So that's what we always work on, unless they tell you otherwise. The likelihood of them telling you otherwise, very low, okay? Yeah, so what happens is people always see, and here's what you have to understand, Jess, and I want you to understand this because I think it's like clicking. even though it's the 7th month, the 7th month has not been completed. So when we are referring to prorations, we have to talk about time that has happened, okay? So what happens is we're multiplying it by 6 because 6 full, right. So what happens is although you were in the 7th month, you're only 5 days in. So it's really like you have to kind of shift your mind a little bit, okay? So the bill of $5,295 is an annual bill. What I like to do, me, Stu, the man, the myth, and the legend, is break it down into a daily number. So I always take my annual numbers and I divide by 360. So 5295 divided by 360. And that gives you about $14.71 per day, okay? So that's the daily rate. And now, Stu, why do you break it down to days? Because here's the thing. I could break it down. I could take the 5,295 and break it down to a monthly number and then break it down to a daily number. But eventually, unless this closes exactly on the month, I'm going to have to break it down to a daily number. So if it's closing on the 15th, on the 5th, on the 7th, on the 8th, then what happens is you're going to have to eventually break it down to the daily number. So why don't you just work in days from the beginning? Okay. So what happens is this, you could take the monthly number and then add, and then you would still have to find the, you still have to find the daily number. So here's the thing. I always work in prorations in days. That's me. And again, you're asking my opinion. You guys, here's the thing. If you understand it a different way, cool beans. So I now know that the seller is responsible for 185 days, and I have the daily number. All you got to do, the last step, last hurrah, is take 1471, multiply it by 185 days, and that should give you 5 times 14.71, 2721 and change, so B is the answer. Guys, how did you like that one? We got a proration problem. We did amortization tables. We did commissions. We did seller net. We did frontage. We did Pabst Blue Ribbon. We did cap rates. We did a boatload of things. So I hope you like that. I'm going to stop the recording now. So guys, thank you for that if you're watching on recording. Okay.